Kevin Patrick Smith is an American filmmaker, actor, comedian, public speaker, comic book writer, author, and podcaster. He came to prominence with the low-budget comedy film Clerks, which he wrote, directed, co-produced, and acted in as the character Silent Bob of stoner duo Jay and Silent Bob. Jay and Silent Bob have appeared in Smith's follow-up films Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Clerks 2 and Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, which are set primarily in his home state of New Jersey. While not strictly sequential, the films frequently featured crossover plot elements, character references, and a shared canon described by fans as the View Askew universe, named after his production company View Askew Productions, which he co-founded with Scott Mosier.
Since 2011, Smith has mostly made films in the horror genre, including Red State and the comedy horror films Tough and Yoga Hosers, two in a planned series of 3 such films set in Canada, dubbed the True North Trilogy. He has also served as a director for hire for material he did not write, including the buddy cop action comedy Cop Out and various television series episodes.
Smith is the owner of Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, a comic book store in Red Bank, New Jersey, that is the subject of the reality television show Comic Book Men. He also hosts the movie review television show Spoilers. As a podcaster, Smith co-hosts several shows on his own Smodcast podcast network, including Smodcast, Fatman Beyond, and the live show Hollywood Babylon. Smith is well known for participating in long, humorous Canada sessions that are often filmed for DVD release, beginning with An Evening with Kevin Smith.
Kevin Patrick Smith was born on August 2, 1970, in Red Bank, New Jersey, the son of Grace, a homemaker, and Donald E. Smith, a postal worker. He has 2 siblings, an older sister, Virginia, and an older brother, Donald Smith Jr. He was raised in a Catholic household in the nearby clamming town of Highlands.
As a child, Smith's days were scheduled around his father's late shifts at the post office. His father grew to despise his job, which greatly influenced Smith, who remembers his father finding it difficult on some days to get up and go to work. Smith vowed never to work at something that he did not enjoy.
Smith later attended Henry Hudson Regional High School, where as a B&C student, he would videotape school basketball games and produce sketch comedy skits in the style of Saturday Night Live. An over 18, he developed into a comedic observer of life in order to successfully socialize with friends and girls. After high school, Smith attended the New School in New York City, but did not graduate. Smith met Jason Mewes while working at a youth center. They became friends after discovering a mutual interest in comic books.
On his 21st birthday, Smith went to see Richard Linklater's comedy Slacker. Smith, impressed by the fact that Linklater set and shot the film in his hometown of Austin, Texas rather than on a soundstage in a major city, was inspired to become a filmmaker and to set films where he lived. Smith relates, "It was the movie that got me off my ass, it was the movie that lit a fire under me, the movie that made me think, hey, I could be a filmmaker. And I had never seen a movie like that before ever in my life." He then assembled a library of independent filmmakers like Linklater, Jim Jarmusch, Spike Lee and Hal Hartley to draw from.
Smith attended Vancouver Film School for 4 months, where he met longtime collaborators Scott Mosier and Dave Klein. Unlike the other 2, Smith left halfway through the course. He figured he knew enough to proceed and wanted to save money to help with making his film.
Smith moved home to New Jersey and got his old job back at a convenience store in Leonardo. He decided to set his film, Clerks, at the same store, borrowing the A Day in the Life structure from the Spike Lee film Do the Right Thing. Smith maxed out more than a dozen credit cards and sold his much-treasured comic book collection, raising the $27,575 needed to make the film, while saving money by casting friends and acquaintances in most roles. Clerks was screened at the Sundance Film Festival in 1994, where it won the Filmmakers Trophy. At a restaurant following the screening, Miramax executive Harvey Weinstein invited Smith to join him at his table, where he offered to buy the movie. In May 1994, it went to the Cannes International Film Festival, where it won both the Prix de la Jeunesse and the International Critics' Week Prize. Released in October 1994 in 2 cities, the film went on to play in 50 markets, never playing on more than 50 screens at any given time. Despite the limited release, it was a critical and financial success, earning $3.1 million. Initially, the film received an NC-17 rating from the MPAA solely for the sexually graphic language. Miramax hired Alan Dershowitz to bring a lawsuit against the MPAA. At an appeals screening, a jury consisting of members of the National Association of Theatre Owners reversed the MPAA's decision, and the film was given an R rating instead. The movie had a profound effect on the independent film community. According to producer and author John Pearson, it is considered one of the two most influential film debuts in the 1990s, along with The Brothers McMullen.
Smith's second film, Mallrats, which marked Jason Lee's debut as a leading man, did not fare as well as expected. It received a critical drubbing and earned merely $2.2 million at the box office, despite playing on more than 500 screens. Despite failing at the box office during its theatrical run, Mallrats proved more successful in the home video market.
Widely hailed as Smith's best film, 1997's Chasing Amy marked what Quentin Tarantino called a quantum leap forward for Smith. Starring Mallrats alumni Jason Lee, Joey Lauren Adams and Ben Affleck, the $250,000 film earned $12 million at the box office, wound up on a number of critics' year-end best lists, and won 2 Independent Spirit Awards. The film received some criticism from some members of the lesbian community, who felt that it reinforced a perception that all lesbians merely needed to find the right man. Smith, whose brother Donald is gay, found this accusation frustrating, as he has endeavored to be an LGBT-conscious filmmaker, believing that sexuality is more fluid, with social taboos, and not sexual desire, preventing more people from expressing bisexuality.
Smith's fourth film, Dogma, featured an all-star cast and found itself mired in controversy. The religious-themed 1999 comedy, which starred a post-Goodwill Hunting Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, as well as Chris Rock, Salma Hayek, George Carlin, Alan Rickman, Linda Fiorentino, and Smith regulars Jason Lee and Jason Mewes, raised criticism by the Catholic League. The film debuted at the 1999 Cannes Film Festival, out of competition. Released on 800 screens in November 1999, the $10 million film earned $30 million.
Smith then focused a spotlight on the 2 characters who had appeared in supporting roles in his previous 4 films. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back featured an all-star cast, with many familiar faces returning from Smith's first 4 films. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon appear as themselves filming a mock sequel to Good Will Hunting. The $20 million film earned $30 million at the box office and received mixed reviews from the critics.
Jersey Girl with Ben Affleck, Liv Tyler, George Carlin, and Raquel Castro, his first film outside of the Viewer's universe, was meant to mark a new direction in Smith's career. However, the film took a critical beating as it was seen as, in Smith's own words, giggly too, due to the fact that it co-starred Affleck and his then-girlfriend, Jennifer Lopez. Despite Smith heavily re-editing the film to reduce Lopez's role to just a few scenes, the film did poorly at the box office. Budgeted at $35 million, it earned only $36 million.
In the 2006 sequel, Clerks II, Smith revisited the Dante and Randall characters from his first film for what was his final visit to the Viewer's universe. Roundly criticized before its release, the film went on to win favorable reviews, as well as 2 awards. It marked Smith's 3rd trip to the Cannes International Film Festival, where Clerks II received an 8-minute standing ovation. The $5 million film, starring Jeff Anderson, Brian O'Halloran, Rosario Dawson, Jason Mewes, Jennifer Schwalbach and Smith himself reprising his role as Silent Bob, earned $25 million.
Zack and Miri Make a Porno was originally announced in March 2006 as Smith's second non-universe film. The film, which began shooting on January 18, 2008 in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, and wrapped on March 15, 2008, stars Seth Rogen and Elizabeth Banks as the title characters who decide to make a low-budget pornographic film to solve their money problems. The film, which was released on October 31, 2008, ran into many conflicts getting an R rating, with Rogen stating,
"It's a really filthy movie. I hear they are having some problems getting an R rating from an NC-17 rating, which is never good. They sex stuff. Isn't that weird? It's really crazy to me that Hostel is fine, with people gouging their eyes out and shit like that, but you can't show 2 people having sex, that's too much."
It was announced in 2009 that Smith had signed on to direct a buddy cop comedy starring Bruce Willis and Tracy Morgan called A Couple of Dicks and written by the Cullen brothers. Due to controversy surrounding the original title, it was changed to A Couple of Cops, before reverting its original title, A Couple of Dicks, due to negative reaction, before finally settling on the title Cop Out. The film, which was shot between June and August 2009, involved a pair of veteran cops tracking down a stolen vintage baseball card and was released on February 26, 2010 to poor reviews. It was the first film that Smith had directed but not written. Cop Out opened at number 2 at the box office and was mired in controversy, mostly over reported conflicts he had on the set of the film with lead actor Bruce Willis. This marked the last time Smith would work with a major studio, leading him to return to his independent film roots.
In September 2010, Smith started work on Red State, an independently financed horror film loosely inspired by the Westboro Baptist Church and their pastor Fred Phelps. Film producers and moguls Bob and Harvey Weinstein, who had thus far been involved in the distribution of most of Smith's films, with the exception of Mallrats and Cop Out, declined to support Red State. The film stars Michael Parks, John Goodman and Melissa Leo. Smith had indicated that he would auction off rights to the $4 million film at a controversial event following the debut screening of the film at Sundance, but instead kept the rights to the film himself and self-distributed the picture under the Smodcast Pictures banner. The premiere in January 2011 drew protests from a half-dozen members of the church, along with many more who counter-protested Westboro members. He further explained his decision as a way to return to an era when marketing a film did not cost 4 times as much as the film itself, a situation he has described as both decadent and deadening. Red State was a box office disappointment, earning $1,104,682 against a budget of $4 million and opened to poor reviews, with the consensus of critics reporting that Red State is an audacious and brash affair that ultimately fails to provide competent scares or thrills. In April 2011, Smith revealed that Red State have already made its budget back with the film, making $1 million on the first leg of the tour, $1.5 million from a handful of foreign sales, and $3 million from a domestic distribution deal for VOD.
Smith had said before Red State that he would soon retire from directing and announced that his last movie would be Clock 3. However, he stated in December 2013 that he would continue to make movies, but only ones that were uniquely his, as opposed to generic ones that anybody could make.
In 2013, Smith directed a horror film called Tusk, which was inspired by a story Smith and Scott Mosier read about a Gumtree ad for a man who rents out a room in his house for free, on the condition that the respondent dresses as a walrus for 2 hours per day. The project began pre-production in September 2013 and was shot in November of that year. Released September 19, 2014, the movie received mixed reviews.
Before the release of Tusk, Smith wrote the script for a spin-off of the film, which he titled Yoga Hosers. The movie began filming in August 2014 and was released in 2016. It stars Smith's daughter, Harley Quinn Smith, and Lily Rose Depp, reprising their 2 minor characters from Tusk, with Johnny Depp again playing his inspector character from the earlier film.
Smith revealed at the 2014 San Diego Comic-Con that he had written the script for a film called Moose Jaws, which he described as Jaws, with a moose, and which is planned to be the 3rd and final film in his True North trilogy.
Smith wrote and directed one segment, Halloween, of the 2016 horror anthology film Holidays, in which each segment takes place during a different holiday.
In June 2017, Smith started shooting Kilroy Was Here, a horror film based on the graffiti phenomenon. Directed by Smith, the script was co-written with Andrew McElfresh, marking the first time he shared writing credits on one of his movies. It represents a retooling of their Anti-Claus movie, which was initially cancelled after the release of Krampus due to the similarity of the 2 stories. The film crew was mostly made up of students of the Ringling College of Art and Design, with shooting continuing over every semester break.
In 2017, due to obstacles getting Clock 3 or Mallrats 2 produced, Smith decided to write and direct a Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back sequel instead, titled Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. It was scheduled to be filmed in September 2017, but shooting was postponed and eventually occurred in February and March 2019. The first trailer for the film was released on July 18, 2019. Smith announced a tour to accompany the film. With the exception of Mallrats, all of Smith's films until 2008 were financed and/or distributed by Harvey Weinstein, in conjunction with Harvey's brother Bob, via their companies Miramax, Dimension Films, and The Weinstein Company. In 2008, Smith's relationship with Harvey Weinstein soured due to the financial failure of Zack and Miri Make a Porno, which Smith blamed on a lack of marketing. Nonetheless, they did keep discussing potential funding for other Smith projects, and the Weinstein Company co-produced Smith's 2016 talk show Geeking Out. Smith also named the independent production company he created for the 2011 film Red State the Harvey Boys in Weinstein's honor. Smith is considered one of the writer-directors whose career Weinstein nurtured, a group that also includes Quentin Tarantino and David O. Russell.
Soon after allegations of rape and sexual assault by Weinstein first publicly surfaced in October 2017, Smith stated on Twitter that he was ashamed of his former business relationship with Weinstein. On his Hollywood Babylon podcast, he noted that my entire career is tied up with the man, and added, "No fucking movie is worth all this." He lamented that in addition to working with Weinstein, I sat out there talking about this man like he was a hero, like he was my friend, like he was my father. He then pledged to donate all his future residuals from his Weinstein-produced films to the non-profit organization Women in Film, which advocates for the inclusion of more women in film production. Smith later announced that, due to the declining appeal of his earlier films, the residuals from Weinstein-funded movies may be lower than expected. He decided that he would instead donate $2,000 a month to women in film.
Smith regularly cast the same actors in his film projects. Jason Mewes has been in 9 of his films, while his wife Jennifer Schwalbach Smith has been in 8 and Ben Affleck in 7.
In 1997, Smith was hired by New Line to rewrite Overnight Delivery, which was expected to be a blockbuster teen movie. Smith's then-girlfriend Joey Lauren Adams almost took the role of Ivy in the movie, instead of the female lead in Chasing Amy. Eventually she lost out to Reese Witherspoon, and Overnight Delivery was quietly released directly to video in April 1998. Smith was not credited for his contributions. He has said that the only scene which really used his dialogue was the opening scene, which includes a reference to longtime Smith friend Brian Johnson.
Smith was also an uncredited screenwriter on the 2000 comedy drama film Coyote Ugly.
Smith has been a regular contributor to Arena magazine. In 2005, Miramax Books released Smith's first book, Silent Bob Speaks, a collection of previously published essays dissecting pop culture, the movie business, and Smith's personal life. His second book, My Boring Ass Life. The Uncomfortably Candid Diary of Kevin Smith, published by Titan Books, was another collection of previously published essays and reached number 32 on the New York Times bestsellers list. Titan released Smith's third book Shootin' the SHT with Kevin Smith. The Best of the Smodcast on September 29, 2009.
In 1999, Smith wrote Guardian Devil, an 8-issue story arc of Daredevil for Marvel Comics, which was illustrated by Joe Quesada. He then produced a 15-issue tenure on Green Arrow for DC Comics that saw the return of Oliver Queen from the dead and the introduction of Mia Didon, a teenage girl who would become Speedy after Smith's run had ended.
Smith returned to Marvel for 2 miniseries: Spider-Man Black Cat, The Evil That Men Do, and Daredevil Bullseye. The Target, both of which debuted in 2002. The former was 6 issues long, but problems arose when the third issue was published 2 months after the initially scheduled release date. As a result, the final issues were delayed for at least 3 years, prompting Marvel to release an In Case You Missed It reprinting of the first 3 issues as one book before the remaining issues were released. The delay in part was due to Smith's movie production schedule, causing him to shelve completion of the mini-series until the films were completed. He was announced as the writer of an ongoing Black Cat series and The Amazing Spider-Man in early to mid-2002. However, because of the delays on Evil That Men Do and The Target, the plan was switched so that Smith would start a third Spider-Man title, launched in 2004 by Mark Millar instead. While Spider-Man Black Cat was ultimately completed in 2005, Daredevil Bullseye. The Target remains unfinished, with 1 issue published.
Smith wrote the limited series Batman Cacophony, with art by Walt Flanagan, which ran from November 2008 to January 2009. The series featured the villains Onomatopoeia, the Joker, Maxie Zeus, and Victor's Sass. The trade paperback of Batman Cacophony became a New York Times bestseller in their hardcover graphic book section.
In 2010, Smith subsequently wrote a 6-issue Batman miniseries called The Whitening Gyre for DC, drawn by Walt Flanagan. The series was initially planned as 12 issues, with a long break planned between issues 6 and 7. After issue 6 was published, Smith and Flanagan's work on their reality show, Comic Book Men, extended this planned break further than expected. It was decided in the interim to release the remaining issues as a separate series to be called Batman Bellicosity, scheduled for 2016, but to date, remains unreleased.
Also in 2010, Smith published a Green Hornet story for Dynamite Entertainment, which was based on an unused script he wrote for a Green Hornet film project which never came to fruition.
In August 2011, Dynamite Entertainment debuted The Bionic Man by Smith, which was based on a 1998 script he wrote that was rejected by Universal as being more like a comic book than a movie.
In 2014, Smith and Ralph Garman released a 6-issue Batman 66 crossover featuring Batman and Green Hornet titled Batman 66 Meets the Green Hornet.
In 1998, Smith shot 2 TV commercials for Coca-Cola, which he filmed in New Jersey.
In 2000, Smith and Mercier teamed up with television writer David Mando to develop an animated television show based on Clock called Clocks, the animated series. Only the first 2 episodes aired on ABC in May 2000, before the series was cancelled due to poor ratings. The 6 produced episodes were released on DVD in 2001.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.